Hey guys, I'm going to go ahead and go through the questions that you guys had on the review sheet. I'm going to do them in numerical order, so if you had one that was later, you can jump ahead in the video, or if you want to watch them, not a big deal to me. I did have a couple of you ask problems that you didn't have to do, so I'm not going to do those ones, but I'll go ahead and go through the rest of them so you guys can kind of see how they are done. So the first two I had on the list were 4 and 5. So if we look at 4, what you have, and these two are both perimeter problems too, not area problems, so we have to find the missing side. So if my 30-degree angle is here, that means 3 is my short side. So you want to use your 30, 60, 90 patterns. Now you don't need the height in this case because you're finding perimeter, but you do need the hypotenuse. If the short side's 3, then the hypotenuse would end up being 6. Okay, so then that means this side would be 6, and if this one's 8, then this one would be 8. Okay, so you could add all those together, and you would end up with 28, I believe it was centimeters on that problem when you add all of those. Okay, on this problem, you know these two sides are going to be the same because the triangles are congruent, and these two sides will be the same because the triangles are congruent. What you have to use here is your Pythagorean theorem. The top two are a Pythagorean triple, so if you notice that you can use those, you would have 3, 4, and 5 on both of these. This one's not a Pythagorean triple, so you will have to go ahead and actually use the Pythagorean theorem. So you have 4 squared plus 6 squared equals your x squared. Okay, so you'd end up with 16 and 36, you'd get 52. 4 goes into that 13 times, so you'd end up 2 square root of 13 for each of those. Now, when you add them, remember you can only add the square root ones together and the non-square root ones. Okay, so adding 5 and 5 would end up giving you 10, 2 square root of 13, and 2 square root of 13 would be 4 square root of 13 for that one, and then whatever label was on it. Okay, so those two were perimeter problems. Okay, the rest of them then will be area problems in the next section. So the next two we had were 8 and 9. And really they're actually done pretty much the same way. They're both working with triangles. Okay, on the first one it tells you it's an equilateral triangle, so all 3 sides are congruent. It tells you perimeter is 12, which would mean each side would have to be 4 when you divided that by 3. 9 is dealing with an isosceles triangle, but like I said, we're actually going to end up solving them the same way with both of them. Or you can, I should say. You don't have to, but you can. Okay, so first thing I have to do is I have my base. I need to draw in my height. Okay, now when you draw it in, it's going to split your 4 into 2 and 2. You kind of have your option now. Most kids will use Pythagorean theorem here to find the height. So you have a 2. You're looking for that in 4, so you do 2 squared plus my x squared equals 4 squared. Okay, when you do that and you simplify this, you're going to end up getting 2 square root of 3 for the height. Okay, so then for our area, it would be 1/2 your base, which is 4, times your height, which is 2 square root of 3. Okay, multiply that and you will get 4 square root of 3 as your area. Okay, next one's going to be done the same way. Go ahead and draw in your height, which then is going to split this into 4 and 4. And then again, you can use the Pythagorean theorem to find your height. Okay, so you have 4 squared plus x squared equals 12 squared. Okay, so on this one, I don't know this one off the top of my head quite as quickly. I think it'll end up being 4 square root of 2 based off the answer. I think that's what you end up with. But you can go ahead and solve that, and then you'll go ahead and be able to do area equals, again, 1/2. And then we have our base, which is 8, and our height. Actually, that must end up being an 8 as well to make it work out to the answer that I believe I have. Yeah. Okay, so then that would work out to give you your 32 square root of 2. All right? So again, both those need to draw in the height, and then you can use the Pythagorean theorem from there. All right, next ones we had were 10 and 11. So 10, we're dealing with a parallelogram. And 11, you're dealing with a trapezoid. All right, so for the first one here, again, need to draw in your height. Now, when you draw in your height, you end up creating a 45, 45, 90 that you're going to work with. Okay, so 8 would be the hypotenuse, so I would divide by the square root of 2 to get both these sides. 8 divided by square root of 2, when you simplify it, will give you 4 square root of 2. So then area of a parallelogram is base times height. So my base would be my 14, and my height would be my 4 square root of 2. And you can multiply those, and that will give you your answer on that one. Okay, the next one, you'll notice that if this is 18, then it means that this part of it must be 18 as well because of the rectangle, which leaves 6 left over for our triangle. Okay, so if this is the 60, that means this is the 30, so 6 is my short side, and then I would take short side times the square root of 3 to get my height, which is what we need for our trapezoid. Okay, area of a trapezoid would be 1/2 your height, which is 6 square root of 3. And then it's base 1, which is 18, plus base 2, which is 24. Okay, and then again, you simplify that, and you will get the answer that you need. All right, next one we had was 12. For 12, they actually give you everything you need. We don't have to find anything extra. This ends up being the shaded triangle. They already give you the height, it's just outside the triangle. So area is going to be 1/2. Now your base is just of the shaded part. Okay, you don't want to take the 10 into account there, and then your height would be 18. Multiply those, and you'll end up with the number you need for 12. Next two we have 19 and 20. So for 19, it says a trapezoid has base lengths of 27.3 and 34.5 and an area of 247.2. What's the height of the trapezoid? Okay, this is just one of them where we're just going to work backwards. Okay, the formula is area is 1/2 height, base 1 plus base 2. So we're going to plug in our information. Our area is 247.2. You'll get 1/2 your height, which is what we're looking for, so we'll leave that as h, and then base 1 plus base 2. So then it's just a matter of just simplifying. Okay, so you can take 1/2 times those two added together, times h, you'll end up dividing and solve from there. There's no picture you have to draw on that one, just because of what they gave you. Okay, so you would just solve for h after you plug all of your pieces in. For 20, it says one diagonal of a kite is 5 times as long as the other diagonal. If the area of the kite is 640 meters squared, what's the lengths of the diagonals? Okay, so for the area of a kite, we're doing 1/2 d1 times d2. Okay, so it tells us our area is 640. Now, it doesn't matter which one you want to keep. Say I keep the first one, and then it says the second one is 5 times as long. So that one would have to be 5x. Again, doesn't matter which one's which. And then you would just go through and simplify it. Okay, so you'd end up with 640 equals, you multiply those, you get 2.5. This would give you x squared. Divide by 2.5 and then take the square root of whatever you get. Okay, that will give you one of the diagonals, and then if you just take 5 times that number, you'll get the other diagonal as well. Okay, so that's how you set up 20. And then the last two were 22 and 24. So 22 tells you a circle has a radius of 3.2 centimeters. Find the exact circumference and area. So circumference is pi diameter. Okay, area is pi r squared. Okay, so you know that your radius is 3.2, which means my diameter would be 6.4. But we are not allowed to leave decimals with pi, so you need to put 6.4 in the calculator, change it into a fraction, and it will give you 32 over 5, and then you'd attach the pi. Again, do not put that in the calculator. Some of you did that on the assignment from from last night, I think it was, and I'm going to count them wrong, just like I did during the year. Okay, so for area then, you want to take your 3.2 squared. Okay, so you do 3.2 squared, it's going to give you a decimal, change it into a fraction, and when you change it into a fraction, it gives you 256 over 25 pi. Okay, so again, make sure both those are exact. Okay, I will not accept decimals on the quiz either. Okay, so make sure that you get those as exact with your pi's. And then 24 is the last one. And there was a mistake on 24. Someone pointed that out this morning. So I did put a little note in the directions. So make sure you're always reading those, but we'll still go through it. This one's area of a sector. So area of a sector is going to be x over 360. And then it's going to be pi r squared. So this one tells you the central angle is 145. Tells you have a radius of 5. So if you want to go 5 squared, you can. If you want to just go ahead and say, I know what 5 squared is, and write it as 25, you can. Again, when you're putting it in the calculator, do not put the pi in the calculator. Just the 145 over 360 times 25, and you'll end up with 725 over 72 pi. I think the one online accidentally says 12. That's an old version. I thought I corrected it. I did on my personal copy, but I had forgotten to do it online. All right, so hopefully that helps you out. Again, look over a few things, and then you guys can take your quiz. Have a great rest of your day.